Some major breaking news as Vince McMahon is starting a brand new company, and it looks like it is in the realm of entertainment. Will it be in the realm of sports entertainment? We're going to talk about everything we know about this story, what it could mean. Could Vince McMahon be stepping back into the fold of professional wrestling? God help us all. We're going to cover it all right here in this video, so be sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Okay, so obviously Vince McMahon has been the talk of the town for all of the wrong reasons around WWE over the past couple of years. He has resigned now twice from WWE, then TKO, and is currently involved in two major lawsuits against both himself, WWE, and various other parties, one of which is the Janelle Grant lawsuit that alleges that he coerced her into a non-consensual relationship, as well as other very serious charges, and the Ring Boy lawsuit that was levied against him last week that we covered in a previous video. So right now, Vince McMahon is someone who isn't exactly in a position, you would think, to be starting a new venture. Well, according to PW Insider, that is indeed not the case. Here is the report according to PW Insider. Quote, Vince McMahon is working on setting up a post-WWE company. Multiple sources with knowledge of the situation have confirmed McMahon has been in the process of setting up what has been described as a, quote, as a new, quote, entertainment hub company, unquote, that would financially back, develop, and produce film and television production. The belief among those spoken with is that there are no plans for the company to launch anything similar to WWE, and they would instead focus on fiction and non-fiction projects. The company is expected to be based out of Los Angeles area if and when it officially launches. Several WWE alumni are already working with McMahon to get the company prepped with the idea of officially unveiling it if/when once his legal issues are resolved. Brad Blum, WWE's former chief operating officer, is confirmed to be working on the project. Kristen Prouty, who was WWE's liaison to the Hollywood world before being let go earlier this year, is also on board. Kevin Dunn, here's the kicker, Kevin Dunn has not been involved with this new venture yet. All right. That is the report according to the good people over at PW Insider. All right, let's talk about what this means. First of all, I think the thing that catches everyone's eyes or catches everyone's ears is the idea that this would not inherently be a professional wrestling company. Vince McMahon, for a very long time, has stated that he is not in the wrestling business. He is in the movie business. He is in creating TV. It's TV, pal, as he always used to say. So my first instinct here is to, number one, take it for what it's worth, right? I do think that as of right now, there are no plans for Vince to step back into the fold with wrestling. I think he, at this point, kind of understands that. In fact, I don't even know legally if he can, not only because of the lawsuits, but also because of whatever the ramifications are of his TKO contract. We don't know if he's technically allowed to go and do other things. Usually when you're an executive and you leave somewhere, many times that comes with the cost of a non-compete. So we don't know whether that was, voided or if that even exists at this point, but it's something to consider when we're talking about the factors of Vince starting a new wrestling company. But as of right now, it does not seem like it is a new wrestling company. He is bringing on former WWE officials, as we noted, Brad Blum and others. And these are people who have been very close to McMahon. Brad Blum especially has been very, very tied to McMahon. He was even not involved, I'm going to say, in the Vince McMahon lawsuit because that would be inaccurate. However, he was someone who at one point, I believe, was named as a party that was aware, at least, of the relationship that he had with Janelle Grant and in the sphere of that whole thing. Now, obviously, there's a few different sides to this. As noted in the release, or in the report, Vince won't be able, or the plan is not for this to start up until Vince's legal issues are resolved. I would not hold my breath on how quickly those are resolved. However, I will say this. If they are serious about starting this and starting it soon, because let's be honest, Vince McMahon is 80 plus years old. He's not a spring chicken. His years on this earth at this point are not, his best years are behind him. Let's say that. So there is a possibility that on his part, at least, he would do what he could to try to, essentially settle these issues out of court, whether it be the Ring Boy scandal or the Ring Boy lawsuit, or the Janelle Grant lawsuit. I think that kind of gives an extra incentive to McMahon to try to settle these things. Now, of course, that is all dependent on when the Janelle Grant lawsuit actually resumes, because as we know, Vince is still reportedly under federal investigation. So that has to settle, and that lawsuit has to go back into the fold, and it has to get back to the flow of the legal process. And then also, the Ring Boy lawsuit was recently filed, so this is not something that's going to be settled in the next couple of weeks or months even. I think that's something that's going to take a lot more time to develop. So you have that. And, that I think could incentivize McMahon to try to get these legal, issues, quote unquote, resolved. But along with the legal issues, I think it brings up a good point of Vince and how much a new company with him at the helm could be worth. And we don't know whether or not it's going to be him at the helm. I do not see a world where Vince McMahon is a public face of a company, quite frankly. I do not see a world where he is the public face of a company that is pitching major distributors or other companies and media projects. I just do not see that as a reality. Not only do you have the baggage of the lawsuits that are against him, you have a lot of negativity coming out from the recently released Netflix docuseries that tens of millions of people have watched at this point. You have all of the negative media attention around him. You have the fact that Vince McMahon, even during his last couple of years in WWE, was very much so a negative property. And the perception of him was actually waning in his final years as a creator. So with all of that, and especially with all of the baggage and the perception of Vince McMahon at this point, I do not see him as a public face. What I do see him as, and could see him as, from a business standpoint, is someone who is out there and funding these projects. That's very well possible. I could very well see a situation where Vince McMahon, who is selling the hell out of his WWE shares, has hundreds of millions of dollars liquidated in the bank, ready to go to spend on different things. And he's 80 years old, so he's trying to spend it as much and as fast as he can. I could very well see that being a situation where he's just doing it behind the scenes. Now, can Vince McMahon kind of control himself in the sense of not being the person in charge making creative decisions? We'll see. But then we have to talk about what it means for the future too. Because I would not rule out, and this is just me saying this, if indeed, and again, this is a big if, because I don't know how long it would take Vince to settle these lawsuits. And if this company doesn't start until Vince and these lawsuits are settled, then I'm not sure if it even gets off the ground. That's why in that report you heard it say when/if, because it's a big if at this point. It's also assuming that there are no federal charges brought upon Vince McMahon. Again, so there's a lot of legal trouble that needs to be settled here. So, anyway, the reason why I would not rule out Vince McMahon potentially ending up back in the wrestling business, and he will not go back to WWE. I think they are, both from a creative standpoint and a moral, both from a creative standpoint and a PR standpoint, I think they are long past the idea of bringing back Vince McMahon in any official capacity. I don't think you can. especially with the Ring Boy lawsuit. I just don't think you can. Now, the thing here is with entertainment is something I brought up earlier. Vince McMahon views professional wrestling as entertainment. He doesn't view it as wrestling. He doesn't view what he does, I should say, as professional wrestling. That's why he went out of his way for years to refer to it as sports entertainment. So for him and his feelings, I think there's a chance that, he's starting an entertainment company. I'm going to do what I used to do, which was pro wrestling. But for him, it's sports entertainment. Do not rule that out if it ever gets to that point. Because it is, at the end of the day, the thing that Vince knows the most, the thing that he has the most experience with, and the thing that made him the most successful he had ever been. And it's one of those things where you can't teach an old dog new tricks. But it would be, I think, depending on how bored Vince is, I think you could very well see a situation where he ends up at least getting back into wrestling in some capacity. Selling that, though, to networks is going to be a problem. Because these are not just wrestling circles we're talking about. The day and age of Vince McMahon and his scandals being settled or simply discussed amongst the dirt sheets brother or whatever are gone. This is something that's being discussed on CNBC. This is something that's being discussed on CNN. This is something that's being discussed on Fox. This is something that's being discussed in every major publication. Every major content creator around professional wrestling or even sports is covering this. That this being his lawsuits, this being the federal investigation against him for potentially, allegedly for trafficking, this being the Ring Boy lawsuit, which is horrifying, disgusting, and something that Vince even admitted to knowing about back in the 90s. When you have all of that, it makes it immensely hard. Now, Vince, at the end of the day, is a billionaire. And if there's one thing that we can all agree on, is that billionaire elites are always going to try to find a way back into the fold and back into the mix. It's what they do. It is what the elite do. However, I am very uncertain that you can sell something with Vince at the helm of it, especially in a public-facing way. There will be companies who might take a call, who might take a chance, but the value of those properties are going to be diminished because you're not going to have as many entities bidding on them. You're not going to have as much interest from other entities in them. And I'm not sure, again, Vince McMahon, if he ends up starting a new wrestling company, let's just say, hypothetically, there will be a lot of interest in it. But I don't think that he has proven over the last couple of years, especially his last couple of years booking WWE, there's one thing he did prove, actually. It was that he is, at this point, incapable of booking professional wrestling competently. We'll see what happens. But it is a major development in the saga that is Vince McMahon, especially with the Ring Boy lawsuit as well as the Janelle Grant lawsuit. If you guys want to find out more information about the Ring Boy lawsuit, I did a deep dive into the allegations, the lawsuit, the history earlier on last week. Go check that out in the archives. Highly recommend you guys go check that out. Also, let me know in the comment section what you guys think about this. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And until next time, keep it real.